I think I got it after a brief fumble. Thank you, everybody, so much for coming out. Thank you, C-SPAN. Thank you, all the viewers at home. C-SPAN, we love you. Thank you for being here. I really cannot stop grinning because there is so much love here tonight. It's unbelievable. We have students here, a bunch of my students here, and that's a really, really neat thing. We have Little League coaches are here. We have basketball coaches, baseball coaches, people I've known since I was 2 years old. My godparents are here. There's so many different people from so many different walks of life that it's just making me smile and grin, and I'm really happy, and I'm going to try to not cry or get choked up or anything like that. We'll do our best. We'll see where it goes. So thank you, Linda, for that really nice introduction. Book Passage, thank you so much for having us. This is a great bookstore. One of the great things about living in a community like this and being born and raised in a community like this is the sense of community and almost like camaraderie. And that's true for the community, but also for the bookstore. One of the things that's so great about this bookstore is the sense of community. So Book Passage, Linda, Left Coast Writers, thank you guys all so very much. What I want to do tonight, I just want to set up a few of these passages, give you a brief introduction, and I'll read a couple of short things, and then we'll do a little Q&A. So a way you could think about this story is really, it's kind of like Bull Durham and Tel Aviv. That's one good way to think about it. There's all the Bull Durham stories in there. There's the fights, the antics, the partying, the knucklehead moves that you'd think of from any minor league baseball field, any minor league baseball game, anything like that. But it's in Tel Aviv. It's in the Holy Land. And for me, that was the really special part about it. It wasn't just baseball, but it was baseball in the Holy Land, a place that I was really passionate about. So I had been out of baseball for like 3 years. I was teaching. I was pursuing this new dream of mine, this new profession of mine. And I was back in Hawaii where I went to school, and I was hanging out with a couple of buddies and my old baseball coach, who's a short little Japanese guy. And he said, "Hey, Aaron, did you know they're having a baseball league in the Middle East?" And I thought he was making fun of me because, he's short and Japanese and I'm tall and goofy and Jewish, and we like to give each other a hard time. So I just took him at his word, didn't believe him. About 3 or 4 weeks later, I came home and we had a Sunday night dinner at my folks' house. And I was a little bit bored or whatever. I Googled Israel Baseball League, and to my surprise, there was actually a website. It was a real thing. So unless it was like this elaborate prank that my coach was playing on me, there was actually a league. So the first thing I did after looking at the Israel Baseball League website was I clicked on schedule. I looked at their calendar. And the very next thing I did was I opened up the window for our school district. And I realized to my surprise that the season was sandwiched right in the middle of our summer break. So I thought, I think I can make this work. I'd played a little bit of professional baseball, scraped the bottom of the barrels of the minor leagues, and I was Jewish, and so I thought I'd be a good fit for the league. So I got a hold of the that's really what I said. I contacted the IBL, the Israel Baseball League Director of Player Development. He's a guy by the name of Dan Duquette, former general manager of the Boston Red Sox. You may have known him. And I got him on the phone. And I basically said, "Hey, Dan, I'm kind of Jewish. I kind of played some professional baseball. I think I'd be a good fit for the league." And he made me fill out a baseball resume. And he said, "You're hired," essentially. So I was training for months after school with the Tamalpais baseball team. I was training with the guys. I left the day after school, and I would get home 2 weeks into the start of the school year. So sandwiched perfectly right in between. I mentioned that it was kind of like Bull Durham and Tel Aviv. Another buddy told me I should have named the book Shekel Ball. Shekel Ball, which I thought was a pretty good name as well. Just to kind of to zoom out a little bit and to give you guys a little bit of context, we had 6 different teams, and maybe you can see the jersey right down here. That's my jersey that I wore in the league. We were the Tel Aviv Lightning, so 6 different teams like the Tel Aviv Lightning, the Bet Shemesh Blue Sox, all kinds of stuff. The Modi'in Miracle, all kinds of different teams. I'm going to talk about Modi'in in a second. So we had 6 teams in Israel attempting to play 6 days a week because, of course, you can't play on Shabbat, right? So 6 days a week instead of 7. But the only problem with that mathematical arrangement was the lack of baseball fields. So we had one really good baseball field in Israel, and that was a good start. We had one real field. The second field was a converted softball field with a light pole in the middle of right field, which I'm going to talk about just a second. And the third one was built under cherished Tel Aviv soccer ground like 3 weeks into the season. So 6 teams attempting to play 6 days a week on 3 1.5, 2.5 baseball fields, made for some interesting times. So things like Dr. Ruth throwing out a first pitch of a game, which I'll tell you about in just a second. Things like an alleged terrorist attack on opening day. Guys are really scared about terrorist attack on opening day. A near strike when the league runs out of money, nearly runs out of money halfway through the season. There was almost a work stoppage. A trip by me and a buddy into the West Bank. And, it wouldn't be a story without a little bit of a love story. So here's when the students get awkward and weirded out and they put their hands over their ears. But there was a little love story. That section I will not read for you guys today. So I guess the way I want to set up this first chapter, when I was thinking about what passage I wanted to read to you guys, the passage that is under the podium. Linda was mentioning that last Friday I did a little reading as well, and this was in San Francisco in the city. It was for some of my buddies, and it was kind of like a Friday night, and so it was a little bit different vibe in the city. So I read about this chapter called "The Sex Doctor," and I'm not going to read that chapter to you, but I just got to tell you the story. So I'm getting loose. In the early morning game, because on Fridays, it's Shabbat, so we have to play early in the day because you can't encroach upon Shabbat starting at sunset on Friday. So we play really early, and all the other games are night games. So everybody's groggy, everybody's in a fog, and I'm starting that day. And I'm kind of grumpy myself. I'm upset that I have to pitch this early in the morning. We're playing the Bet Shemesh Blue Sox, which is actually the best team in the league. And so everybody's kind of tense. I'm a little bit tense. I'm a little bit nervous. And I see someone's getting ready to throw out the first pitch. And I look, and it's a short, diminutive little blonde woman with a white IBL baseball hat. And the PA guy goes, "And now, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Ruth, the sex doctor." And I'm doing my warm-up pitches, and I'm trying to get loose, and I momentarily break focus, and I turn around, and I go, "Holy moly!" I didn't say "holy moly," but I said something else. I said something else, and I broke focus for a minute, and I tried to get back in it. So I get focused. We go out, and it's a close game. One of our guys ends up getting hit. And then in retaliation, one of their guys ends up getting hit. Both benches end up clearing, okay? There's a near brawl out on the middle of this soccer field, which has just recently been turned into a baseball field. No punches are thrown yet. We heard over the loudspeaker in the middle of this near melee, Dr. Ruth, the sex doctor, says, "Now, boys, if you play nice, I promise you great sex for the rest of your lives." The kicker to that story, though, is 2 innings later, somebody else gets hit, and we have another near brawl. So I guess we broke our end of that bargain. Unfortunately, would have been nice. So, sorry, students, a little editing needs to go on. So that was a passage that I read last Friday because I figured it was appropriate for the occasion, but I couldn't resist telling you the story. This passage that I'm gonna read here is another I don't know if it's my favorite passage from the book, but I really like it. I think it's symbolic because it's a baseball chapter, but it's also a story about kind of the mystical quality of playing in the Middle East. And so I hope you'll get that from this chapter called Bus Ride. And this story takes place at Kibbutz Gezer. I mentioned just briefly the softball field with the light pole and right field. That's where this one goes down. Arriving at Kibbutz Gezer, a.k.a. the Geese, we cut across fields of sunflowers, through the obligatory security gate, down a dirt road, past some houses before reaching the softball field. The softball field? We heard about the Geese's odd configurations, but it was a shock nonetheless. The miniature infield housed 90-foot bases placed just short of the outfield grass. The warning track for the softball field, a thick strip of dirt arched across the middle of the outfield about 100 feet from the recently extended fence, which was now sitting up a 5-foot hill. And there was a light pole, as I mentioned, in the middle of right field. Seriously. Not to worry, though, someone had duct taped a mattress to the pole lest an ambitious outfielder should actually decide to attempt making a play. Stepping down from the bus, guys were kvetching at full throttle. Can you believe this?